side of me, boy. You're dressed like a canine, and there's a crime scene shaped like a Tootsie Roll right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk through some trends here. The trends of transgender shooters. This is a pretty remarkable series of trends. The Lakewood shooter identified as trans, the Iowa high school shooter identified as radical and trans, Nashville shooter identified as trans, still don't have the manifesto, Colorado Springs shooter identifies as non-binary, Denver shooter identifies as trans, Aberdeen shooter identifies as trans, and of course, Charlie Kirk's killer was in a transgender furry relationship with his extremely creepy and tweaker boyfriend. The most recent Minneapolis mass murder was transgender and then wrote on their firearm that this was for the children. Wrote a bunch of anti-Trump and anti-Christian iconography on the bullets and some of the tactical gear for the firearms here. And so I'm starting to sense a trend. What is that trend exactly? That trend is the defiance of who God made you. It is the lack of your ability to accept the reality of God. God created you. God doesn't need you. I know that might sound mean, but God is the God of the universe. He doesn't need a Benny. My life should mean nothing to God and nothing to anyone else. Except for this. Because I'm a Christian, I know that God actually did create me and gave my life purpose. He marked my life for a specific purpose, a specific reason. And that gives me value. I am created by a creator for a reason. What is that reason? I'm not sure, man. I look at my kids. I look at some of the work we're doing here. It's awesome. And so we're just going to walk through the doors that God has for us. But that gives me meaning. If I believe that God made a mistake in making me, well, one, that means God's not perfect. That's a desecration, defiling of reality. Number one. Number two, maybe I just don't believe in a God at all because my life is some sick joke. Born in the wrong body. I was supposed to be a girl. I was supposed to be a boy. I'm going to butcher myself in order to do that. I'm going to mutilate children. I'm going to castrate myself. We've talked often about how popular the vasectomy bus was at the DNC. We actually walked right up to it. Trust me, I didn't go inside, but I was morbidly curious about the vasectomy and abortion buses at the DNC. The abortion buses were so packed, you couldn't get an appointment. Not that we tried. Child sacrifice is a core tenet of the Democrat Party's pagan religion. And the vasectomy bus was slam full as well. Imagine letting a dude operate vasectomy on you, driving in the back of a bus through the mean streets of Chicago. Lots of potholes. Not a great city. Not a fun place to get a vasectomy. But Democrats were lining up to do it. They hate children. They despise God's first command. What is God's first command to us? Be fruitful and multiply. Go forth. Create life. Create more life in the beautiful way that I intended. Get married. Have kids. Start a family. This is why we're so obsessed with housing, because you can't do those things if you're living inside of a group house. You don't want to do those things with 100 strangers inside of an apartment building, even if you can close the door. Our passion for homeownership for young people is actually our passion for starting families and creating families, more families in this nation. Strong families, strong fathers, strong mothers will save America. But the other side sees it totally differently. The other side sees you as an inconvenience and, more importantly, potentially flawed. And so they push this transgender ideology. Pop it up, Klein. One thing is very clear. The trans movement is radicalizing mentally ill into becoming violent terrorists and targeting children. The pattern is undeniable. The Annunciation Church shooter identified as trans. Nashville shooter identifies as trans. Lakewood Church shooter identifies as trans. Colorado Springs shooter identifies as non-binary. Denver shooter identifies as trans. Aberdeen shooter identifies as trans. Iowa shooter identifies as trans. And ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Kirk's killer was in a transgender relationship with a furry. And so there's something very dark here, and that's hitting the nail on the head. There's no way to understand it other than Christian doctrine and the doctrinal Christian truth available to all of us in the first book of Genesis is God created man and woman. And that they are different all the way down to their bones, their DNA. Archaeologists digging in Africa. Wow, we find a really old skeleton. It's 1,000 years old. Whoa. Was it a male or a female? Well, let's check the pelvis, which is entirely distinct for a female in order to bear children. If we don't have a pelvis, then let's go ahead and check a bone fragment. Pluck an XX or XY. Boom. That's the ball game. There you go. Man or woman, boy or girl, male or female. It is hard-coded into us because of our common creator who loves us. So imagine, if you will, an ideology so satanic, so evil that is to defile the actual most basic creation of God in God's first chapter of Genesis in the Bible. And you then can see the easy step to nihilism, spiraling, over-medication, sociopathic behavior. And then eventually, if you're this miserable and if you're this broken on the inside, and if you're this possessed, you're going to do what Satan always does. What is the nature of Satan? Steal, kill, and destroy. Before we get to Thomas Crooks, get me that image from the transgender shooter in Minneapolis. I'm certain we have it. From the journals. The journals of the transgender shooter in Minneapolis tell you exactly what happened. Now remember, this transgender shooter went to a church and targeted little children on their knees praying to Jesus. The journals show not just satanic iconography, but a literal demon speaking from within the shooter. In a chilling passage, a demon appears in a mirror. And that demon spaketh to the actual shooter. The shooter is sitting there with a gun in the drawing, in the rough sketch. And the transgender shooter goes, when will this all end? When will this all end? When will it end? Please, God, when will it end? And the demon looks back in the mirror. It's like Satan incarnate looks back in the mirror and says, when you kill. When you kill. When you kill yourself and when you kill others. Do you need any further evidence of what this ideology is? How when you mess with the defiling, when you defile God and God's design, then you're opening up a portal, you're opening up a door to some very dark things. He was writing in Russian for some reason. Another very strange thing about this another very strange things about this shooter, but not worth covering here. There you can see the demon, the satanic figure in the mirror, and the words translate to, when will it all end? When will it all end? When you kill, kill, kill. So, I don't think you need any further convincing that this is an ideology that you mustn't allow to indoctrinate your children. This is an ideology that needs to be severely looked at as it pertains to clearly the butchering of children. The child transgender surgeries are it's just the things of Sodom and Gomorrah. They're indefensible. And the results, the early results of this ideology gaining so much prominence over the past few years are not good. And they're about to get worse. New account linked to Thomas Crooks shows furry fetish and transgender ideology. Let's go ahead and read. Crooks was shot dead by a Secret Service sniper, but not before killing a rally goer, Corey Compertor, 50, and seriously wounding David Dutch and James Copenhaver, also hitting President Trump in the head with a bullet. Then FBI Director Chris Wray told Congress on July 13th, 2024, attack, that the Bureau had found nothing in Crooks' online history that pointed to a motive or political ideology. A week later, Wray's deputy, Paul Abate, told Congress that comments posted on one of Crooks' social media accounts appear to reflect anti-Semitism and anti-immigration themes. He's MAGA. Oh, wow. He's MAGA. He's a member of the America First MAGA movement. Got it. Trying to kill Trump. Thanks to enterprising source who uncovered Crooks' hidden digital footprint, we can now see that Abate misled Congress by omission because he left out the entire section of Crooks' online interactions from January to August 2020 when he did an ideological backflip and went from rabidly pro-Trump to rabidly anti-Trump and then went dark, never seeming to post again. Among these 17 accounts uncovered by our source were ones on YouTube, Snapchat, Venmo, Zelle, GroupMe, Discord, Google Play, Quizlet, Chess.com, and Quora. The online interactions when Crooks was ages 15 to 17 give us a better understanding of his evolution to an assassin and invite more questions about what reversed his ideology. The danger Crook posed was visible for years in public online spaces, says the source. His radicalization, violent rhetoric, and obsession with political violence were all documented under his real name. It wasn't hidden. This is what Tucker proved on Friday with his bombshell report. The official narrative claimed that he acted alone without clear motive, ideology, or digital footprint. That is a lie. Yet the source found reams of information that shows that Crooks was not simply one unknowable lone actor. He left a digital trail of violent threats, extreme ideology, admiration for mass violence. He spoke openly of political assassination and posted under his real name. He was even flagged by others for his threats. Thanks to an enterprising source that uncovered Crooks' digital footprint, we can now see that the FBI deputy director misled Congress by omission because he left out an entire section of Crooks' online interactions from January to August of 2020. He did an ideological backflip and went from a pro-Trump supporter, as we covered on Friday, to an anti-Trump supporter obsessed with violence against the government. Ladies and gentlemen, Crooks' trajectory from pro-Trump to anti-Trump is evident. He referred to Trump as the literal definition of patriotism in 2019. He also engaged in violent threats against Democrats with regularity. Yet the source found reams of information that shows that Crooks was not simply some unknowable lone actor. He left a digital trail of violent threats and murder. But in early 2020, thank you. In early 2020, online behavior flipped 180 degrees and he became very critical of Trump, Fox News, and Republican complaints about mail-in voting. First time he criticized Trump was on January 23rd, 2020, when he commented on a video of a law professor, Jonathan Turley. Keep in mind, the only reason we may know about any of this is because of Trump's stupidity, Crooks wrote. He started describing Trump supporters as a cult. How can people call others sheep? But you're in a brainwashed cult, he says. The same day, he described Trump as a racist. In April 2020, Crooks was constantly criticizing Trump's pandemic response as too slow. Everything he's doing now should have already been done. Through the summer of 2020, Crooks' online rhetoric became increasingly radical and violent. Crooks wrote, "In my honest opinion, the only way to fight the government is with terrorism-style attacks. Sneak a bomb into a government building. If anybody sees you, to track it down. Leaders of the military try to assassinate them." Among the 17 accounts uncovered by our source, only one was operated under an alias, Rod Swanson. All the rest of them were in Thomas Crooks' real name, Tom Crooks. Rod Swanson is a former senior FBI agent who's now chief investigations for the who was the chief investigations for the state of Nevada during the 2017 Las Vegas mass shooting. He previously served under FBI Director Robert Mueller. This is very strange. So he had a PayPal account operated under the name of an FBI agent that worked the Vegas mass shooting? What the hell? Contacted by phone over the weekend, Swanson said he was surprised that his name was connected to Crooks. I don't know anything about that kid or his family. I don't even use PayPal. I don't know how to set up a PayPal account. Okay. He retired from the FBI in Vegas in 2016. Okay. Now he works for oil and gas in Houston. That's odd. So his payment account shows up as an FBI agent? It's extremely weird. Okay, here we go. Furry fetish. When told of Crooks' online threats, he said there was no way the FBI could be aware of the teenager. No matter how ridiculous the allegations, no matter if it's COVID or somebody is going to knock on somebody's door, Swanson said, if they investigate that kid, there's a record of it, and there's an assessment that some leader made that he was not a threat or didn't rise to the level of a threat. He also said that if the FBI had information about his PayPal account, that I could imagine that they would reach out to me right away. Given Crooks' pattern of tracking high-profile mass shootings and violent events, the source believes that it is plausible that he adopted Swanson's name as a private joke. Like alleged Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson, Crooks appeared to have an interest in furries and was exploring gender identity. He described himself with the pronouns they, them on the platform DeviantArt, which is one of the biggest online hubs for furry art and furry community. I'm glad that they explain it here in the article so that I don't have to explain it to you. A furry is somebody who has an interest in anthropomorphized animal characters, like cartoonish animal characters, often a sexual fetish. It's a grotesque fetish to have. Don't Google search it. 2 accounts linked to Crooks' primary email were found on DeviantArt under usernames Epic Microwave and The Epic Microwave. The account suggests that he had an obsession with scantily clad cartoon characters sporting muscle-bound male bodies and female heads. Do you see it? Do you see the transgender ideology here? He's sort of like satanic Baphomet. You ever seen what the Church of Satan worships as the Baphomet? It's the actual Satan. The figure of Satan is trans. The figure of Satan is a goat head on a male body with female breasts. This is what they worship. And Klein, if you would, click 3rd row all the way over to the right. You can see here that the statue of Satan, I'm not sure where they set this one up, has little children being indoctrinated by this. You had the goat head obviously is like a man beast, a bestiality in Detroit. And then obviously male and female genitalia. And in their statues, they want little children like Thomas Crooks or Tyler Robinson to be absorbed into this ideology because it is, of course, the polar negative of God, what God intended. Man and woman. Man created in God's own image, not with a goat head, not the head of an animal. Animals are animals. Animals are not created in God's image. We are created in God's image, and we are precious because of it. But if you can warp and manipulate and then poison the minds of these young people who are susceptible to this, then you can turn them against God, against nature, and obviously into, down the chain, sociopathic radicals willing to murder because of how broken they are. It is a spiritual war. So, again, this is bombshell stuff. Deviant art user used they, them pronouns and was on a furry hub. So, like, when the FBI sits there, hey, Alex, grab me the clip. If it's not in the, is it in the production? I want to play you the lie. I want to play you the lie from the FBI. Because Paul Abadi at the FBI went before Congress and said, nah, you know, Thomas Crooks probably just a right-winger. He doesn't like immigrants, and he doesn't like Democrats, which is simply half the story. Of course, we totally acknowledge, and we've played you the reporting, and we just read you the reporting, that this young man started off as a supporter of President Trump early in his first term. But that things changed psychotically, dramatically, and radically and went very, very dark and very, very hard left, very violent left. So the FBI lied to you. An accurate statement would be the one I just gave to you, including that clearly this young man was interested in degenerate sexual preferences like furry porn, transgender ideology went by they, them pronouns. How different would this have played out if the FBI had come out and said, this individual may have identified as trans, was using they, them pronouns, and was into extremely perverse, left-wing coded cartoon porn? How different would our conversation have been? Instead, they got a single donation to Trump in 2016 and then to Biden based on Act Blue, and that is reflective, frankly, of the political evolution of Thomas Crooks. But it's only half the story. Thomas Crooks did become a sociopathic left-wing radical. And then, of course, took the dark ideas, the broken ideology of transgenderism, and these warped cults that people get into over furry sex and like degenerate sex. Sex is the way, obviously, that the mind and the body can be destroyed. If you get into the wrong stuff, if you go down the wrong rabbit holes, man, this is how you truly this is how you lose your mind. And there's too many examples to cite. Guard your heart. Guard your eyes. Quit porn. Porn is all designed to be a gateway to more extreme and more degenerate and more demonic stuff. It numbs your sense. There's so many scientific studies out here to show that it numbs your senses. It breaks your brain. It makes it impossible to engage in normal sex, to have a healthy and natural sexual relationship. Don't do it, man, or quit it. Obviously, massive struggle in the modern era. Okay, pals with neo-Nazis online. Do we have that FBI clip? Okay. Let's read through the end of the article here, and we'll toss over the FBI lying to you. One of the people Crooks interacted with online was Willie Tepes. a member of a Norwegian neo-Nazi group and Nordic resistance movement, which was designated a terrorist organization. Teppes encouraged violence and Crooks' extremism, using a Maoist phrase that political power comes from the barrel of a gun. Crooks has repeated it several times in his comments. In one comment on October 5th, 2025, more than a year after Butler, Teppes commented to another user that he had been contacted by both Russian and American intelligence. People who ask you to contact them when they just could easily contact you are feds. This is how they avoid entrapment. Both American and Russian intelligence does this. I've chatted with both, he claims. Shortly after this interaction, Crooks disappeared online. Did his brush with the Norwegian and his own violent rhetoric win him a visit from the FBI or Secret Service? Was Thomas Crooks groomed, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we have commentary after our show on Friday from Kash Patel. And I have a take on this. It's hot or not, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. What you think, it's true. And this is my take on it. Let's pop up what Kash has to say here. So after learning all of the new available evidence on Thomas Crooks, which had to be released by independent sources and independent journalists, sleuths, whistleblowers, and fact finders, Kash Patel came out and said over 480 FBI employees were involved in the Thomas Crooks investigation. That's a lot of employees. They conducted over 1,000 interviews, addressed 2,000 public tips, analyzed data extracted from 13 seized digital devices, reviewed 500,000 digital files, collected, processed, synchronized hundreds of hours of video footage, analyzed financial activity from 10 different accounts, and examined data associated with 25 different social media online forums. Okay. So what's the so it's that's a lot of data. What did you find? The investigation reveals that Crooks had limited online and in-person interactions, planned and conducted the attack alone, and did not leak or share his intent to engage in the attack with anyone. Okay. My problem with all of this, and you know that Kash is a friend of the show, and he's been on our program before. My problem with all of this is that you are operating not from a position of power here. And it's not Kash's fault. I'm just trying to be as fair as I possibly can. The FBI has lied to us so many times, including on this case. Kash Patel didn't break the FBI. It was well and far broken when he got the helm and he got the reins. But it is up to Kash Patel to run a functional FBI, and in order to do that, you have to have the trust of the American people. If you don't have the trust of the people, well, then all of society atomizes. The institutions that govern us must have a modicum of trust in order to function. And so it is the imperative for Kash to get that trust back. And the only way to do that is for the FBI to tell us that Thomas Crooks was a transgender furry cultist. Sicko. It should come from the FBI. All of the turn that Thomas Crooks made into a radical leftist and some of the mysterious engagements he's had online with strange accounts that may be feds, maybe not. Who knows? Clearly, this kid was groomed by someone. On Friday, Tim Burchett was on saying that it was the MK Ultra program, just right off the top of the dome. Nope, it was MK Ultra. Okay. Something happened with Thomas Crooks. The they, them pronouns and degenerate pornography habits of terminally online and warped people is very important to this story. And so you have to be out with it. You have to tell the American people first. Don't let it be spoken out from under you, because then it looks like there's more things being hidden. Goodness gracious, look at this mountain of evidence they have. 500,000 digital files? Release them. Oh, this boring. It's just his Google searches. Who cares? Show us that there is nothing that is being hidden here. There's no greater plot. There is no darker conspiracy, and most importantly, that the FBI trusts the American people to make accurate decisions ourselves, given the available evidence. And what is the FBI's job? The FBI's job is to gather evidence and then refer it to the Justice Department. Okay, fine. The FBI did their job. What is the Justice Department going to do? Thomas Crooks is dead. Maybe charge his parents. I don't know. It's not up to me. Although it seems, being the parent myself, seems beyond my wildest imagination that your child could be going through this kind of transformation, literal transformation, and you not know about it. Thomas Crooks was hoarding explosive material in his room. He lived in a very small little house. It's not like they had some McMansion, had his own wing of the manor. No, he was living in like a little, teeny little home, living with his parents. With no silverware? What the hell was that about? The home was scrubbed clean, like it was a crime scene. According to multiple federal investigators, very strange. They found an enormous amount of firearms in his room. The Google searches that he was making were constantly about explosives and some really dark stuff. And you're telling me that no one knew anything? Okay, well, then you got to release it. It's the same thing with the Epstein files. You just got to release it. But what about the victims? At some point, you either redact or you have to just say it is in the greater good of the American public. So we'll do this in the safest way possible for people to not re-victimize them. But you just got to be out with it because it'll all be used as a political weapon. And the more you lie to people, the more radical they get. The more radical they get, the more prone they are to doing this and shooting my friend Charlie on a live stream. And the similarities are stunning. We did a video in the days after Charlie's murder that there were some shocking similarities between Thomas Crooks and Tyler Robinson. And little did I know that it would go all the way down the rabbit hole into the degenerate porn habits and transgender ideology. Although I guess I should have suspected, based on the very dark and terrifying patterns that we're seeing right now play out with that community. Ladies and gentlemen, Kash has to release everything. You have to be out with everything. The final thing I'll say on this, because of course we ranted about it for 2 straight hours on Friday without any breaks, is that, man, I went to Butler. I stood where Thomas Crooks got killed. I saw with my own eyes a cleanup operation like I've never seen before in my life. The FBI doesn't go hose off roofs. That's very strange. Why was no one there? Why was I all alone? Why was I even able to get onto the murder site? What the hell is this? I couldn't believe it. I lived in a very dangerous neighborhood in Washington, D.C. I've talked regularly and publicly about witnessing murders, and I did. I saw murders. I lived in the ghetto. I saw gangland murders. My wife was a nurse at the hospital, treated. It was like the murder central, that wing of the hospital, man. Just gangland shootings all the time. D.C.'s a bloody place. And I would see the crimes unit out for days, protecting evidence, depending on what it was, protecting evidence, getting the bullet fragments, getting the DNA, getting a thumb, like a little thumbprint off one of the bullet casings. That happened once. Took them forever. They were able to get a match. This is the next day. Thomas Crooks hadn't been killed for 24 hours, and here's the FBI personally hosing everything off and sanitizing it all. I was there less than a week, and there was no active crime scene. Everything had been struck. Everything was gone. Everything had been ripped to the ground. What the hell was going on with that? We have Senator Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen, who's a real truth seeker and speaker. I'm going to ask him about this. It's a final thing. What the hell is going on with Thomas Crooks in this phone? Listen, man, if you give us anything from the FBI, at least show us in the seconds before the shooting that took the lives of my fellow countrymen, patriots, firefighters, fathers that hit my president in the head with a bullet. Can you at least show us who he was talking to? What was he looking at? You owe it to us. Was this a group chat? Was it a map? Was it instructions? Was he FaceTiming somebody? Was someone telling him what to do? I don't know. But I know he was doing it right there. And mere minutes later, this lumbering jackass goes clonking over the rooftop with a firearm so perceptible that hundreds of people said, look, he's got a gun. What the hell is that guy doing up there? Look, he's got a gun. And you just see him like clunking ass backwards over the roof right here. Everyone looking and filming like, what the hell's going on with this dude? Now we know. Transgender, furry, obsessive, cultist who was on the phone, making phone calls, getting information, talking with someone before he decided to go change the history of Western civilization forever. And we still don't know what it is.